Keeping It Real with Tania and Nette. We're up to series 2, which is the realignment. Hello, Tania. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Yeah, really good. I've just got back from Canberra dropping my son off for uni. So it's
How do you feel?
yeah. Yeah, really good. It's actually quite interesting, and it's interesting even like in conjunction with what we've been talking about, to know how your being in your mind and being in your body actually create how you emotionally feel about a situation. And everyone's been messaging me, lovely friends and stuff, saying, how are you going? I know this is going to be hard, da da da. And every time someone else comes into my life with that question that you must be feeling this, you must be feeling that, I almost go all into my physical brain, and I'm like, oh, should I be? And I can feel this sort of go down into my stomach where I go, maybe I am feeling sad, or maybe I am feeling anxious. And then when I sort of center myself again to my normal state, I'm like, no, I'm not actually. I can connect into him so well, and I can feel his positive energy and his excitement and his joy. And I know that I'm connected enough to know, doesn't matter where I am, I'll know how he's feeling. So, and we kind of brought him up for this stage. We taught him to cook and to clean and to fend for himself and be a good person and all those things. So it's all like part of his journey. And to me, I'm excited until someone asks how I'm going, and then I second guess myself. So
Oh,
yeah.
don't do that.
No, and it's been a thing where I can literally feel the shift in my body, and I go, oh, hang on a minute. And then you said that tiny bit of anxiety. And so I know next week we're going to talk a lot about the anxiety and mental stability and mental health. And that was a little sort of touch on it for me, because I'm not someone who normally gets a lot of anxiety or things like that. I have in my life, but not in a big deal. So yeah, and it was showing the connection. We spoke many times about a connection of a mother and a child that you sort of get from birth, and that sort of energy cord never leaves. And if you stay in the right zone and they're in the right zone, then that energy connection is really good. It doesn't matter where you are, you can really feel that. So, and I know you'll have that with your son when he gets at that age. And yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. And I
Aw.
think any mother that's going through this, the more you can just stay sort of true to your own instincts, the more you're going to make that an easy process of them moving forward. So yeah.
Yeah, and if your instincts are anxiety or fear, or let that be there, but don't let
Yeah.
other people put their experiences onto you, I think is kind of what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, the word it was, you must be feeling, was everyone keeps saying to you. And I'm like, oh, must I? So, all right.
Am I not
Um,
doing this right?
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm
yeah,
not a good mother. I'm
yeah.
not crying as I'm leaving. I'm hugging him, saying, this is such a beautiful adventure. So, and
Oh,
look, I've been away from him for not even 24 hours, and he's rang me 3 times. So, hey mum, how do I thicken up the butter chicken? Hey mum, I
oh.
can't turn the gas oven on because we've never had a gas oven. How do you do that? So yeah, but he's got a 5-share roommate. So he had a big Chinese New Year last night, because one of the friends is from China. So he's getting a beautiful cultural experience as well. So
Nice.
yeah, fun,
Wonderful.
fun. Very good. So how have you been? Where are you at?
Um, I kind of feel like I'm definitely coming out of the grief.
Yeah,
And grief, I'm definitely seeing the value in the end of the relationship. I'm no contact, and I'm seeing the value in that. And what I was going to say is, I think grief is a really normal thing that for me, I just kind of dove into it. It was okay. I'm sad. I'm going to let myself be sad, and I'm going to cry,
yeah,
and I'm going to grieve what could have been, and also sadness over truly like what was, because it was challenging
yeah,
and difficult. And so, because throughout, like, I could always kind of see what was happening, but I could see also what could happen. And it was the could happen. Like, do you remember when you said that you could see like different salts being put on a scale? Like if you
Yeah.
just had pink salt, you know, and the pink salt, I think, being his journey, if you just journeyed, you know, and then we'd have pink salt and it would work. So I could always see that. So it was letting go of that
Yeah.
as well. And then I've also seen some more sort of connections in some patterns from childhood, and you know, with a situation that happened with my dad where I won't get into the details, but where I was just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I can see why I took this on in the relationship based on my parental figure and the way that he conducts himself. So yeah, it was nice. It's nice. Like I'm coming out of it. I'm feeling good. I'm getting my energy back, you know, where I'm getting things done. And
It was
yeah,
really
and
interesting, as you just said, the pink salt thing. I actually saw a second scenario of you taking the pink salt off. And that was a choice. You know, you could have taken pink salt off yours to balance and not been who you really are, but you have chosen, no, I have pink salt. You know, I want to keep that on my side. And to do that, that means that our relationship is not going to balance and not going to work. And I'm going to keep the pink salt and I'm going to walk away with the pink salt and see what happens. And that's a really brave thing to do. And it was interesting, Spirit showing me that, like, that you actually had two choices there, and you chose to be strong in yourself, and knowing that that was a positive part of you, the pink salt, that to stay in a relationship like this, and maybe in the relationship with your father, that pink salt never was there. And so you were like, I'm going to keep that added. That's a positive for me. That's an alignment of who I am. That's my growth moving forward. So they're kind of celebrating the fact that in what you've done here is actually really strong to be able to keep something that doesn't balance and say, no, I'm going to keep that. I'm going to have that in my life moving forward, even if it means this pain and this stuff in this person that I thought I was going to be with forever is not going to be part of that. So yeah, well done. Well done you.
well, thank you, because for quite some time people were like, you've really done a very brave thing. Like, you know, they're like, I know so many people, sorry, I'm trying to twist my chair here. There's so many people that never do that, and they never put themselves first, and they never stand up for themselves and what they need, and they just suffer through these relationships. And they're like, you're so brave. And you know, in the grief and the pain of it, of losing, because there's a difference between being compatible and deeply caring for somebody, you know. So I care for him very much, but we just became incompatible. But it didn't feel brave. It felt awful. Like it felt awful. But now I'm seeing that, and I've really gotten to that place in my life. Like, I know what I want. I know what I'm looking for, and I'm not willing to not have those things in my life. If nothing else, this relationship showed me more of what I need and what I can compromise on and what I can't, because there's some things I can't compromise on and I'm not willing to. The cost is too great. And I believe the pain of staying somewhere where you're not valued is way more painful than leaving. Way more painful.
Yeah. It just doesn't feel like at the time, because it's such an intense painfulness over a short time compared to a long, you know, if you can see yourself in 20 years in the same shoes, getting the same stuff dished out, thinking that I'm sure this is going to change, or you spend a year, you know, in like intense sadness and grief that slowly gets better. And then you go, wow, in 12 months' time, look where I am, compared to 20 years' time where I'm still in those same shoes going, I'm sure it's going to get better.
And dulling and dulling your own self. Like there was an aspect where, and I mean, you saw it, Nettie, where I wasn't celebrated for my strength and for my I want to say bigness, but that's not the right word. But like I can fill up a room, you know, with my
Yeah.
energy. And I have a lot to say. And I just wasn't celebrated
Yeah.
for who I truly am. So yeah, so I just it's just getting better. It's getting better. I'm getting there, man. And it feels good. It feels
Yeah.
good. I
No,
did
good.
see him a week or so ago. He had to come by and grab a few things, and I, you know, keeping it all together. I'm like, yeah, I got this. I'm just gonna see you, and you're gonna get your stuff, and then you're gonna leave. And then he was asking me about this car thing that I've been going through, and I'm talking, and then bawling. And he's very tender and sweet, and you know, so he hugged me, and I was like, I'm sorry. It was just hard to see him because it's this representation of what could have been.
Yeah. You can still see the other path. It's like,
I
oh, hang
can.
on, have some pink salt.
Yeah. Right? But I don't want someone that doesn't want to grow with me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I bawled my head off, and I still cry a lot, but like I just, again, I still feel really soft and squishy, and I'm enjoying being soft and squishy, but sometimes it's inconvenient when, you know, I'm just all of a sudden like, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And even that strength in what you did then, you know, you burst into tears and he's comforted you. Maybe we should still see each other, and you're like, you know, like,
Yeah, no, I said no.
yeah, that's a hard thing again. You're given another door and you've got to shut that door again. It's like, hang on a minute, don't make this harder for me. So, okay, I got a question that kind of leads into the topic of today. We're going to talk about our bodies. So we've got the triangle where we've got diet, mind, which we've touched on both of those, and we're talking about our body. Did you notice anything physical with your body from the grief or from the breakup that you can think of, like, or even that how your body reacted to going from having someone who you're touching and being around all the time to
Oh
not
my
touching and being around
gosh.
them?
I would say the biggest thing that and I'm probably going to tear up, deeply missing, is being touched.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, like I will just sit there and just grieve having someone touching me.
Yeah. And it shows the power of touch, doesn't it, when you get
Yeah,
that taken away in an intimate way, or even just in any way, you know,
yeah,
like, to be honest, that's what I'm going to miss the most. I'm connected to Will, but even from a family member, I'm going to miss that touch, that hug, and even that
yeah,
walk past in the hall where, although you don't touch, your body's, that your
yeah,
energy connects, because you get a lot of stories out of your energy
yeah,
without having to verbalize things, and that you
yeah.
can't. Yeah.
Definitely missing touch. As I said, I was very tired for quite some time. Like I just didn't have the energy to really kind of get going on things. Um, yeah, low energy and missing touch. Is that answering the question?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. Yeah. So that sort of stems back to what I got in the download about how important it is actually to be around people energetically, or be around objects energetically. So your body actually, the energy field around your body when you walk past things actually exchanges energy connection without you realizing, right? And we can know that, but that's why people walking through forests or going for a walk on the beach or anything that actually has a living or orgasms. Organisms.
I miss those too, Nettie. I miss those too.
That was a Freudian slip.
I didn't want to say it, but since you brought it up.
Yeah, so and also with people, when you go into crowds and to things, we were meant to be, we breed in pairs for a reason. We were not meant to be on our own. And so they were explaining in a lot of detail how important that energetic exchange is, and how much it actually fuels us. And without that, we will get really tired. So if you're used to being near someone, your bodies will automatically just fuel each other. It's like kinetic energy, the way that we move actually creates more energy within our bodies. So if we stop moving, we stop doing it. That's why sleep is quite interesting, because we are stopping, yet we're refueling. And that's, as we spoke about, the way that works in sleep is interesting. But during the day, when you're moving body, you're actually creating motion, kinetic energy. And when you actually do that, you can pick up each other's kinetic energy by being near each other. And so when you don't have someone near you, you will find that you'll get that real tiredness. You'll be yawny, you'll be tired. And so even things like we do via Zoom, there's a certain amount of energy that you'll feel spiritually, but physically you don't get anything from that. And so being in person is really important to be. It's sort of like I don't know, it's like plugging into a tap, and when you don't get that anymore, they actually spoke about the solitude and torture. The way that they used to torture people was to actually take them away from people. And part of the reason that works so well is not only because our mind doesn't get to feed off other people's minds, but our body also doesn't get that energetic exchange of energy, so that we really need. So if you're ever feeling tired and things like that, and you don't have people around, just walking or going through forests, or down to the beach or things like that, you'll actually pick up the energy. That thing people say, hug a tree. Hug a tree, like it seriously works. it's that physical side of it.
I think, though, in my particular situation, I think that it, instead of it being sort of that give and take, it shifted into very much a take, which left me depleted. And there wasn't a and remember, they called it energy transference. There was the bad energy transference, where the person would take your energy and then leave you depleted. Unfortunately. So I think that's part of the rejuvenation that I needed to do. And that's something that I need to be really cognizant of reciprocity, moving forward. And it's not like I was perfectly aware that there wasn't reciprocity, but it was, having the faith that, healing would happen. And but touch. Now that's the biggest one. I'm a touchy person. I when I care about people, I'm very touchy with them. So just not having that, or having a bad day and having someone that I come home and gives me a hug, and I'll take care of dinner, that kind of thing. I really miss that support.
Interesting, when they did they talked about diet, and they talked about mind and body. They talked about, like, mind, they talked about the art of discussion, but body, the one thing they said was touch. The importance of touch was the words. And so it's interesting that that's exactly what you missed the most with the body, was the importance of touch. So and I've, like, in the notes that you'll read, if anyone ends up reading what I finished writing, they talk a lot about touch, and how interesting, they talked about breeding and the physical side of the way we were built. And so they talked about that we were obviously designed with all different shapes.
Are you actually calling sex breeding?
Well, no, they're talking about that there's a difference between sex and breeding. So breeding is a certain age.
Breeding, as far as like we're making babies, we're mating.
We're mating. Not having sex.
That sounded so funny. I'm like, what are we here, Nettie? Are we zebras? Like,
I know, because breeding's not a word I would say either, but they speak about breeding all the time, and they talk about the ages between 16 and 32 that
what's
we were
going on?
designed.
You're back to talking about sex.
It's not me. But they talked about physical attraction between 16 and 22 and how we sort of go out of our mind and into our body a lot more from that age group, right? And that we were all built different shapes and sizes, so that when we are in our physical, we actually attracted on purpose to certain people. So we will we'll have certain attributes that you just won't know why. You'll go, oh, I'm attracted to people with brown eyes and dark hair and, tall or short or whatever it is. And they said that we've been given those attractions for a reason, that our soulmate is that, the people that we're meant to breed with. And they're saying there's many of them, but that we can breed with. We are meant to it's meant to help us steer into the right connection, that our bodies will make a good child. So it was quite an interesting little thing.
That's why young adults are going through that sort of sex phase where they're just having fun and having sex, is because they're physically being attracted to these people because they're in the breeding phase.
Yeah, that's right. And certain people, and they're not meant to all be attracted to the same one. So when we all try and look like each other, our society at the moment, they were talking about, was everyone's trying to physically look alike. We've got sort of a marketing image, or a few marketing images of what we're meant to be. We're all getting lips done and things done.
Right.
Big butts in Australia at the moment is the big thing, and that is an attraction signal that you're actually taking away from your mating pair, if that makes sense.
Oh, interesting.
So you're transforming your physical body to something that it wasn't meant to be, and your mating pair is attracted to the one that you were, not the one that you're trying to be.
Which is interesting, because between like 16 and 22, when they are so in the physical body, because at that time you're not as much worried about values and compatibility and conflict management and all of that. Like, you're truly just animalistic.
She's
almost
hot, he's hot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much about the physical. So what I'm hearing you say is, if people are changing their physical, they're changing what would naturally become what someone would naturally be sexually attracted to away.
Yeah, their right breeding partner. So they're the one that they are meant to breed with. And then therefore they were saying that you can end up not finding your thing because you match with this person, but you don't actually, and you can't work out kind of why it is. And it's you both, one of you or both of you are falsified your appearance to the point that you're being attracted to the wrong, kind of
physical body.
Yeah. And to be honest, I was like kind of blown away by that, because I hadn't
ever thought that was a thing either.
Yeah. And then I started looking at my husband.
I would have put it more, Nettie, on like a soul level for attraction and that, but that actually makes sense because of that physicality, that physical sexuality at that age, which I have now in my 40s. I'm like a freaking 20-year-old.
Yeah, so it's interesting you talk about that though, because what they then talk about is that when you're in your late 30s, 40s and 50s, your attraction changes. And so because you're, say when you're in your 50s, you're 40% in your intuitive soul mind rather than your physical soul mind, then you're actually, when you see someone, you think you're just looking at physical, but you're actually picking up all those intuitive signs. So you'll go, oh, he's really attractive or she's really attractive. And then when someone else looks at it and goes, I don't see that, you're like, oh yeah, I do. It's because you're intuitively being attracted to them at the same time. And you can't quite pick what it is, but you're like, he's just got this thing, or she's just got this thing that I just really like. And you'll get that within friendships as well, they said. So it's not just a physical sexual thing. And as people get into their 40s and 50s, their friendships become extremely important, just as their single relationship does. It becomes stronger. So you might actually bond to someone who you're not breeding needing to breed with, if that makes sense. And you'll be kind of, for me, I'm obviously attracted to men, and my husband's and I've been together for a long time, but they're sort of saying that I'll find friends who I will have this attraction to, not in a physical way, but in a intuitive way, that I'm really like enjoy their company and enjoy their relationship, and it becomes really crucial in your life, but it won't become a sexual partner, because your physical versus your intuitive balance changes out from there. So you'll hear a woman say in her 50s say, actually, I just want to be held. Like what they don't realize is one of the most things for me is when they come up behind me and hold me gently, or hug me, or sit on the couch with me. I get so much out of that, just as much as I do out of a sexual relationship. But when you're 18 and 19, it's like, you're holding hands on it.
You want to
then you're like, okay, like this isn't enough, and they're sort of showing that balance and why that is there. We don't need to breed anymore, so we don't need to be attracted into physically. In fact, our bodies will stop being into that breeding when you actually go through menopause, or for men, the equivalent of their menopause, you actually will get very much your attraction from a intuitive will kick in even more, is what they were saying. So that'll be interesting.
So you're just not as interested in the physical.
Yeah, you still are. So, but your balance is different. So you definitely will get a lot out of just that. I'm trying to see if they can give me the words for it. That the being in the one. So the energy exchange that we talked about, that energy exchange of just being together, you'll get a lot out of that, rather than having to use your sexual organs, is the word that they're saying, which is, again, thank you very much for sounding me sound like an idiot. Anyway.
So meaning you'll be just as fulfilled with physical touch as you would with sex.
Yeah, and they're saying equally. They're showing me a big equal sign. So you can equally be fulfilled and almost equally get to a point of orgasm from not having to be actually physically, like you can have a mental energy exchange that will get you to that same level of love and desire and care, arousal. Yeah.
So are we venturing sort of into like a tantra type talk, like a tantra sex, or?
I don't know. I don't know. That's not a word that they used, but I suppose so in some ways. That's exactly what tantra is. It's energetic, not touching. So yeah, possibly. I think it's also what they're saying is it's an exchange. It's a different purpose. So they're saying to me that the point is that the purpose is different. So the purpose of the other one is physical and breeding, and the purpose one is companionship, understanding, love, all those sort of things. Connection. So a fit that they're saying it goes down to so that you were given ears to hear, you were giving mouth to speak, you're giving eyes to see. And so what they're saying is that as you get into that thing, that age group and less away from the physical, you will get so much more from actually listening to someone, and so much more from being heard or speaking to someone and being heard. Like you'll feel a love connection through those sort of things, and you will desire that and need that. So although even like a relationship, they're saying in your two people in their 40s, 50s, they have great sex, but but there's something missing, and when the same two people in their 20s are like having great sex, this is awesome, we could just go on like this forever. And then as you get older, and so one thing they were talking about with the matching of the partners, and they're showing me that people getting into their 40s and 50s often will split up because they matched incorrectly with their breeding partner due to either rushing. So they're saying rushing, like people will rush into that sexual thing, and then they'll go, oh, okay, we're sexually connected. Right now we're going to get married. And then they get to a point down the thing where when that balance changes, they're like going, oh, we're actually not, we don't match on a soul level. We don't match on an intuitive level. we matched on a physical level. And sometimes they didn't even match on a physical level. Their just hormones were so much that they were just like, okay, we're in the right spot at the right time.
We're in breeding season.
Yeah. So we're just going to do it. So
Yeah.
they're saying that a lot of people will have a battle in their kind of 40s, 50s to wonder why the person that they loved is now someone that they still love but don't feel attracted to. And they're showing me a situation of someone coming up beside someone and touching a partner, touching another partner, and they pull away. And they're starting to go, I actually don't want your physical touch anymore, but that's all we had. And so when because you're able to shut off your intuitive, but you can't shut off your physical. So a partner can come into the room and you can have no sort of intuitive connection with them because you choose not to. You might be having an argument, or you might just be at a situation in your life where you're not going, I don't connect to them intuitively. And so you cut that off. But when they then come up to you and touch you, because you don't have that intuitive connection already, it's like an unexpected touch, because you're not like, touch you'll feel before it happens, your energetic surrounding. Someone comes into your presence, and especially when you're intuitively there. Like, I could close my eyes and I could tell you the minute my husband walked in the door without hearing him, because I can feel him. And when he goes on holidays, I can literally feel him driving away with that connection. And I can say to him, oh, you've just stopped in the car at a petrol station, because I can feel that the energy's paused at where he is and I can feel it go away. We're very, very, very well connected energetically. But they're showing me that is why, someone will come in and touch you. It doesn't even have to be a partner, it could be anyone. And you can go, ooh, I don't feel like that. I don't want that. And often that's a sign that you don't have any intuitive connection. And unless you work on the intuitive connection, you're going to have nothing but physical, and the physical is not going to meet your needs, because you're going to be saying, actually, I get arousal from that other side as well that I'm not getting.
Very, 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 very true. My friend and I were just talking about this yesterday, about, in relationship, to have that need for that emotional and energetic connection, and to being unable to just actually connect sexually, just in the physical, to just,
yeah,
okay, I'll be honest, we called it bang-a-rando.
That's very different. That's very different to breeding.
Very different language than Spirit is using, I'm sure, because theirs would be like, mate a unknown soul, breed with an unknown soul. Yeah, but anyway, so banging rando, and it's just like, it just doesn't do it for me. Like, yeah. I'm not interested. I want emotional connection. I want intelligent connection, like through intelligence. And I just want so much more from my connections than even 3 years ago when I first started dating Kevin.
Yeah.
What I wanted has changed considerably.
Yeah. And that's because that balance has changed for you too. And so the more intuitively, and as you age, then the more that is going to become so important for your attraction. It's like,
oh, I still really like sex though, just so we're clear.
Yeah. No. It's different. And that's why I think they're not using the word sex, and they're using the word breeding. And they're basically putting them in two buckets, because sex is something that you will enjoy throughout your whole relationships. Right. And they're saying that touch bit where you can do it. You can have someone that touches you like that and you go, but at the same time, you both need sex, and you have sex and it's great. Right. But then the rest of the day, you're just feeling not disconnected and you don't even want them to touch you. So it doesn't mean you can't have good sex, because you still have a huge amount of your body that's in the physical. And when that works, it just works. Right.
Okay.
So
this makes sense. I know how it relates to me now.
You know, this download is about your life, right?
Nettie, I'm sitting here listening to you, and here's what happened the other night when he came over. I was looking at him, and like, I've lost a lot of respect here, I'm not gonna lie. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, oh my God, I would love to jump on top of you. Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, why? Why? Like, there's nothing else here. Why do I still want to have sex with you?
Yeah. Because
Thank you, Spirit. Now we know. You're welcome,
that
everybody in podcast land. I very much apologize to the next man that comes into my life that has to learn all of this through the podcast.
Oh, I
Because
never thought about that. Love it.
yeah, I've kind of started dating. I haven't,
Oh,
yeah. I haven't gone on a date
you
yet,
heard it
but
first here on episode 4.
what's that?
I said you heard it first here on episode
Yeah.
4.
Yeah. So, but there's definitely a front runner in the competition.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really interesting. But like I was kind of thinking about, oh God, like what if he listens to my podcast? Like he's gonna I'm like, if you want to get to know me, just listen to the podcast. But anyways, yeah, like and I'm like, I'm looking at him going, ugh, like ugh, on so many levels, but like so now I understand that makes perfect sense because
Yeah.
there was we connected in the physical, we did not connect in the intuitive, which is why there lacked empathy. There lacked the ability to understand my perspective. There lacked the ability to have that nice, like energetic exchange and that like intuitive ability to read each other and to
Yeah.
navigate situations. But there was still that physical connection because that's all that was left.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're just saying to me that it's called the no words discussion, which is I've actually written about, but I had forgotten to bring that up. So you have a connection of where you have no words, but you've had a discussion. And so on a soul level, you're chatting all the time, right? And so when you are both in your intuitive, you don't need to say things to know how each other feels. Yeah.
It's the truth.
So they label that the no words discussion. And when your relationship doesn't have that, there's constant misunderstanding. And when you say something, they take it the wrong way because they're not getting the rest of the dialogue.
Yes, they're not getting they're hearing it like black and white, literal. Here's the words. Instead of seeing the different perspectives and motives and intentions and who the person is that is speaking.
Yeah. And so they are paralleling it with my download. So although the download was half an hour, it's like, 10 weeks of writing to actually get that down. They're saying in one sentence, like, I'm disappointed you didn't tell me you were going out tonight. That is the human version of what you'll hear physically, but intuitively, you could hear a novel back, you've exchanged a novel. I'm sad about this because of this is how I feel, blah, 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 blah. And when you only get that one word, that one sentence, they physically take that as a kind of a hit. Why should I have to tell you where I'm doing all the time? Shouldn't you just know where, like, and it's like, oh, okay. And so they're saying the download that I had is a download that everybody does every single day. And when but they don't realize it because what it is, it's just a fast exchange of a lot of knowledge. And when you take that out of the picture, you're not going to understand each other because you're just hearing one word with like you're hearing a title of the book is what they're saying, but you're not hearing the chapter. So you're guessing what's in the book. And then you're like, no, you've totally misunderstood me. Like,
and then you're relying only on words.
Yeah, just the heading. Just the
yes.
Yeah.
It's interesting because the guy that I've been chatting with that I'm sure at some point we'll go on a date, just kind of getting to know each other. He said, he's like, I'm not in a rush. And I'm like, neither am I. I'm like, but honestly, like it's online dating is weird because you can feel like there's a vibe and there's a connection when you're chatting, but you don't actually know if that vibe and connection exists until you're like physically in front of each other. So at least when we meet people in the real world and we meet them, we immediately get that intuitive sort of kick, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, there's just something there. And then you kind of get to know them. Whereas this way you're getting to know them, but you're not really sure if there's actually that like energetic chemistry almost. And I don't necessarily, well, I mean sexual, but I don't necessarily mean that, where there's just that vibe where it actually feels bigger picture as opposed to very sort of black and white.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I know when I met, everyone, talks about when my husband and I met, we were 17. And they're like, what was it like? And we both said, oh, I just instantly knew you. And we had that physical instant connection, but not only on a physical sexual sort of way, but we also had it mentally, like we were mentally stimulated by each other. And we very early on could just, everything just flowed. And you wouldn't get that over a computer. You just, I mean, you do have an energy exchange to some point. I mean, look at the two of us, really. We don't know each other, didn't know each other, but we intuitively, we are so connected. And it's just,
yes. But you and I are different breeds.
Yes, true. But so when you then, if I had met Andy this way and then gone and seen him physically, it would have been like, oh, wow, or, oh, no, and that's that's hard. Yeah.
And I love that you talked about the misunderstanding, because that happened a lot.
Okay.
One time we had to pay for something. It was like a guitar lesson or something, and I'm flipping through the bank records, and I'm like, oh, did I pay this? I can't remember, and he looks at me and he's like, why are you asking me all these questions about the budget? And I'm like, what?
I was talking out loud.
Right? Like, what just happened there? But there was this, oh my God, spirit. Okay, they just put something else together. This is lovely. So, but yeah, there would be a lot of that. And I'll get down to sharing this because I'm the living example. Yay, me. But yeah, it was weird. There would be a lot of that. And I'd be like, I would feel very unseen. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, why are you not seeing where I'm coming from? Like, I don't understand. I'm giving it all to you and you're just not seeing it or feeling it. You're just hearing literal words. And the connection, they're telling me to talk about it. I've had issues with my father for a very long time. And I apologize to my dad if he listens to this, but hell will probably have to freeze over before that happens. And he sent me a message the other day, and I was supposed to be working on these. They're asking me to talk about it, so I hope there's a point. I was supposed to be working on these examples for work where his coworker and family friend was helping me with them. So as we both know, I've been, spending most nights honestly laying on my couch, eating blue cheese, feeling sad. And I've, just slowly been coming out of it. But it wasn't like, oh, I can't handle life. It was like, I'm diving into how much this hurts. I'm just going to do it because I want to get through it. So I'm just going to, if I don't feel like doing anything, I need to rest. I need to recharge. Spirit's orders. That's what I'm going to do. So it's not like I was a complete mess, but I was just going through the motions. Anywho, he sends me a message and he's basically got really, really critical with me and was like, oh, well, don't waste his time. And if I thought it, like if I was in his shoes and you didn't send these back to me, I would be feeling like you don't care and you're wasting my time and you're not making it a priority and blah, 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 blah. And I look at this message and I immediately started to cry, for starters. I was like, that's really mean.
Yeah.
Like, I'm your daughter. Why are you talking to me like that? And so I cried. And then I responded and I was like, but he says, ... I'm not being critical. It's your life.
Which is AKA for I'm being critical.
I'm being critical. So that's what I responded with. So I find it really interesting that you think that you can be critical at best and shaming me at worst, and then put in the caveat that you're not being critical. And then all of a sudden I'm not supposed to see it that way. Then he comes back and he goes, oh, there you are again, thinking that I'm treating you so badly. I'm not treating you badly, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like sitting there going, oh, pieces coming together, seeing it, understanding it. But the way that you're explaining it is this: these people are more in their physical than their
Yeah.
intuitive. And it's not so much that they are jerks or they're this or they're that. It's that they do not have a balanced perspective on what is in front of them. They are not being provided with the intuitive and energetic information that a person is putting out to them. They are not receiving it.
Yeah.
Because they are too in their physical.
I just got the biggest goosebumps as you said that, from the bottom of my toes all the way up to my head, what they call truth bumps. They are 100% agreeing with what you're saying.
How much I have struggled in my life, Nettie, with being seen?
Yeah.
Over and over, because I am early to the dance than most people when it comes to I'm just going to call it like 5D or something, you know, I have been early to the dance.
Yeah.
I've had these abilities. I've had the ability to see other people's perspectives, to understand their motives, to understand where they're coming from, to see all of the music notes. This is how they're showing it to me. All of the music notes that come with phrases or words. And then I do the same, and it is not received with the music notes.
So really what you are is aligned. Okay, so they're
haven't
unaligned.
Always been, but
no,
yes.
but that's what it is. It's aligned. And the difference that they're showing me in my family, because we were talking last week, you know, how do you seem to have your shit together, Nettie? How come, you know,
well,
this
you were
works?
raised way differently than I was.
But the people I was interacting with were also aligned. And the people you're reacting with aren't, right? Not. So when you're there around people who are not, for me, it was made easier because I'm talking to someone who is in the right balance of where they are and where they're meant to be. So you
never actually got that deep wound like I have had of not being seen, not being heard, not being understood. Like I this is a big epiphany. This is honestly huge.
So I did when I went to work. And I got into corporate, right? So I was a woman in corporate men's world, right?
Yes.
For many years. And they would see me and they would shut down. They didn't know how to deal with a woman in that thing. But
well, I was a police officer 23 years ago.
Yes, right? So we both know what that thing was. And they would literally change when I walked in the room because they couldn't say the things that they could. But I worked hard at changing that in my small group. As a collective, it was impossible. But so I do understand, and I did come across those sort of things. But in my everyday home life and my family of 10 are all very aligned. So, you know, we have a lot of, in particular with my dad and my mom, just a connection and just understanding that was accepted. So we spoke intuitively just as much as we spoke physically. You know, you have the two voices. So, and if you've got someone who through fear or through abuse or through whatever reason, they won't go up into their intuitive, then you have got someone who only has a physical voice and only has physical ears. And so they can't hear what you're really saying. They can't see you for who you really are. And so you're fighting constantly because your balance is so much that you have both eyes and both ears and both mouths. But they're not being heard and you're not being understood for who you are. So yes, in many ways, the sad part is that they're not where they need to be on a journey of realignment, and you are. And that's what this whole realignment is about, is actually getting all those people, or as many people as we can, back up to being aligned and breaking down those energies and fears and things like, and anxiety and mental health that come with it. And I think that leads into where we're going next week, is to really discuss mental health and you know, anxiety in particular they're talking about, and why that occurs in the triangle of diet, mind and body. And I think we've unpacked a lot of it today and a lot of understanding. And yeah,
I'm so excited to see what anxiety I'm going to have next week.
Yeah. As our actor for the You're on the role play.
Oh, it just made it click though. It just made it make sense why I always feel like that. And so as I'm looking for somebody new, like not only am I looking for like open and effective and honest communication, but you don't actually have to physically communicate. Like I'm a communicator.
Yeah.
But I like the amount of times that I would be with Kevin and be like, dude, we got to talk. Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand what's happening here. We need to talk. And I don't have to do that with most people. Like, I don't say, oh, Nettie, we need to talk. We're having a misunderstanding. You know, you say something to me and I see all the music notes that come with it. I say something to you, you see all the music notes that come with it. So there's no misunderstanding.
Yeah.
But with him, I was like, is there something wrong with me? Like, why do I have to talk about everything? And it was absurd. And I completely understand it now. I love that because it actually puts also how do I say this? Like a more benign reason on why it's like that, as opposed to judgments like unkind, mean, critical, da da da. Now, believe me, my parents have been extremely critical, and I haven't been seen supported or allowed to be big, like I just talked about like 15 minutes ago.
Yeah. So physical is very judgmental. When we go further down after we're doing mental thing, judgmental comes very much when we're going to talk about that whole physical and 10% as a teenager and then how it changes into your intuitive. Judgment is huge. It's huge in the physical. There is no judgment in the intuitive. So when you get the balance wrong, you judge. You're very judgy. You're judgy of each other. You're hearing physical judgment of everything. So, and you start to worry about your appearance and the way you look more than you should. Like, it's not saying if you are 100%, you know, spiritual and not judgy at all or worried about the way I look, you would be dead because you would be out of your body, right? So we're meant to, we've got eyes for a reason. We're meant to look at each other and say it's meant to be a physical attraction. They're all important things to have. So in no way are we saying you should, you know, you can go the wrong way on both of these things, you know.
Exactly.
We're going back to balance.
We're talking balance. We're always talking balance in the middle, not one or the other. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how long we've gone, but
we're at 52 minutes, but I don't care. I'm going to keep going. I want to touch on what you said about judgment, because this is something that has come up numerous times in my life where people have been like, oh, like, okay, here's an example. I was having a birthday party and we were all down on the beach. We're having a bonfire and we're having a super great time. This one gal comes and all of a sudden we're chatting and I'm off with another friend, and she gets up and she stomps away and she makes a stink and she leaves. And then she comes back and she's like, I'm leaving. I'm going home. So she grabs her stuff and she leaves. And this was kind of more like a more spiritually based sort of people. And as she leaves, they go, oh, well, you know, love and tolerance. And let's just, you know, she's having a tough time. Like, let's just accept that. And, you know, and it was all this bullshit. And I'm like, oh my God, you guys, like, are you serious? What kind of grown human being comes here, acts like a crazy person, grabs their stuff, yells at us, nobody did anything, and stomps away? And we're all like, oh, we're just going to remain non-judgmental. No, that is not what they're talking about. They are not saying don't be discern. They're like, be discerning about who is in your company, who you are around. Look at how depleted I was just for the last 2 months.
Yeah.
From the people, the company that I kept. And this isn't a slight to Kevin. I'm talking merely energetically.
Yeah.
You know, we need to be discerning about the people that are around us. Judgment, to me, the way they're explaining it to me right now is judgment. It's different how they're explaining it. They're saying it's like, oh, I have to look this way. I have to act this way. They're relating, I hope you can help me, Nettie. They're relating judgment to expectations of how they're supposed to operate.
Yeah, they're saying judgment is ego and it's a ladder. So you have to put yourself into a ladder of where you're going. That's the way that there's levels of judgment. So there's that judgment where you're saying, okay, I'm going to compare myself against this other person, and
Yes.
therefore I put myself on the ladder.
They're calling that a form of judgment.
Yes, so they're saying that is physical judgment in just its general thing. Now, behavioral judgment is completely different to physical judgment. So when someone actually behaves in a certain way, it can be seen in a ladder where they start going, okay, I'm on this part or that person. I would have reacted to there, I wouldn't. But it comes with a bucket of other things, which is your emotion, which is your heart, which is all those different things. And so they're saying that it's very hard to almost judge a behavioral judgment, if that may, or define behavioral judgment, because it's so diverse and it's so thing. But it's less physical, is what they're saying. So it's less like, oh, she's got a big nose or she's got big hair. It's like her reaction to this is different, but it's still just as important as physical judgment, if that makes sense.
Okay, but are you hearing me, Nettie? Are you seeing me right now? No, I'm just kidding. Am I making sense when I'm explaining this discernment? So I can judge this. To me, judgment is I'm judging her and being like, she shouldn't be where she is, and that's not okay. I'm better than. That's not what I'm saying.
You're putting yourself on the ladder, is one
which
of them.
I'm not doing.
Yeah.
This is your journey. However, I don't want your journey around me.
Yeah.
That's discernment.
Yes. So that's choosing that person is on the ladder and you're going, actually, I'm on a circle here. There's no ego attached to the circle.
Yes.
It's like, so, they've got a ladder, and that's like kind of your physical judgment. And then your other judgment is your intuitive judgment, which is a circle. And it's like, I know we're all on this together, and I choose not to be on that ladder with you. I choose to be on this circle over here. And it's taking yourself out of that situation where people are judging in that way, and they then compare in a learning and an exchanging way rather than a judgmental way. Yeah.
The piece that they're just wanting to find very important to share is that they're saying this new age teaching of non-judgment is getting misunderstood to make yourself out to be a doormat.
Yeah. And also the scenario that you talked about before is exactly people who are too much in their intuitive and too little in their physical.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, so that's
very true about this particular person. Absolutely true.
So they were making a kind of oh, it's all right, it doesn't matter. No, it does matter, because we have physical bodies and we are in a physical world, and our interaction physically is just as important. In fact, it is not until our 70s and 80s that the balance actually starts to pass, where physical becomes less than things. Most of it, our physical is stronger than our intuitive in our balance. So even in our 50s, it's 40%, right? So we're 60% still importance of physical, and we wouldn't be meant to be in that if we weren't meant to make some physical sort of consideration rather than just full intuitive consideration. Don't worry, everyone. What you should be saying is, why has that person just got up and done that? That's not okay behavior. And then if you really want to help them, it's like intuitively, I'm going to try and work out what it is, or how can they be called out on that behavior to say that's not okay, or to say, I'm not going to put up with that behavior. I'm not going to be around when that person does that again.
Exactly.
And, they're your choices.
But that's not judgment.
No, not at all.
There's no part of any of this where spirit is asking us to accept people where they are. Yeah. No, there's no reason for me to accept mediocrity in my life because I'm supposed to accept you where you're at. Yeah. No, I get to choose. And they're showing me, and we are coming up to time here, but what they're showing me is that the discernment is required so that you have a healthy energy transference. If you don't have that discernment, you end up being drained in an unhealthy energy transference. Yeah.
And your own alignment gets put out because you're dragged into their alignment.
Yes.
Of, either way, they're either to one or to the other. And it is not judgment at all. Like, that's why when they were explaining judgment, they weren't explaining discernment, because they are two different. They're two different
absolutely
things.
Yeah.
One we should have, one we shouldn't have as much. So,
exactly. Yeah, and I hope that we actually explain those differences. So we're very much at time. Do you have any other big points?
No, I have really bad lighting and I can't read my writing, so I've had to go on memory of what it is. So if I missed it,
Okay.
It was meant to be
Well,
missed.
That's okay though, because next week we are going to touch back on mine. So I don't think that this was like diet is the only thing we're talking about in that podcast, and then mind and that's it, and
No.
you know, physical and that's it, because A, they all tie into each other, and
Yeah.
B, we're gonna, you know, in the time apart, be provided with other aspects to the triad to be discussing further. So
Absolutely.
next week, as you said, and I think it was kind of a good touch point, is this woman that stomped off. And, you know, you said that's somebody that's too in their intuitive, which is very true, which is actually what we wanted to touch on next week, is the mind, because we failed to 2 podcasts ago. Anyways, is the mind and how being too much in the intuitive can cause mental health, including too much in the physical causes mental health.
And also, equally, it's too much in touch with your body and too much in touch with the intuitive body and too much in touch with the diet, like the way the diet works. So those 3 things will come together next week in understanding the effects that they have on our mental health and our anxiety. So, yeah.
So I have a question.
Yep.
Am I going to be having like a massive panic attack this week or something? Like, could you just give me a heads up? What is happening? Because I'm done. I'm not going to work in a crappy way where I have to go have a panic attack in order to be able to come share it on this. Tell me, give me a heads up, Nettie, tell me.
And I wish I knew, but sorry, you come with surprisingly through your week, whatever has been downloaded, you have just done. So it's going to, we spoke this today for like literally, you know, three minutes, or, you know, and then we were straight onto it. It was like, let's just press record. So I always find it fascinating.
And I was listening to you talk and I was like, this isn't relating. This isn't relating. Oh, there it is. And you'll see it on the video. I go like this. Roll back in my chair and I'm like, are you kidding me?
Oh, very good.
So my life story is out there. You're welcome.
Yeah.
So thank you everybody for coming. Thank you for listening to both of us and Nettie's downloads. It was lovely to see you, Nettie, and we will see you all next week. Take care.
And feel free to like and share. We would love to be heard by more, so that hopefully our discussions can help others.